Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas coming up. One of the big organizations that was critical in the modernist and fundamentalist controversies that really led a lot of support and gained a lot of popularity behind the fundamentalist side was the Youth for Christ organization, which was started tentatively in New York in 1940, but it wasn't formally established until Torrey Johnson became its first president in 1944 in Chicago. It focused on advancing fundamentalist ideas in young Christians using massive rallies as its primary platform. This was controversial because of not only the real estate, but the travel and number of people that were attending these rallies tended to cause a lot of disturbances uh, in those cities where they were held. After World War II, the organization spread globally and began to have a significant influence overseas. It was highly controversial, especially overseas, as this organization, which was viewed as distinctly American and highly fundamentalist, spread into countries that had no similar tradition or background with that branch of theological thought. Billy Graham's role in the Youth for Christ movement was incredibly important. In the biography about Billy Graham by Robert Burns, he's presented as a force not just within the Youth for Christ organization, but with a national influence in politics and culture, which broadened with the increase of the Youth for Christ to an international influence. By the end of the 1940s, Youth for Christ reported that it had tens of thousands committed their lives to Christ as the emphasis on on evangelism continued. Youth for Christ established the World Congress on Evangelism, which emphasized international outreach. It was especially focused on reaching young generations in second and third world countries. The organization held highly public and very well attended rallies, sometimes which even met weekly in certain areas. They focused on evangelical outreach, and in the United States, they pulled from numerous fundamentalist denominations, creating a united front of young Christians. That unifying effect of the Youth for Christ between these disparate denominations is one of the reasons that it was so successful. Traditional barriers like denomination and age were almost completely disregarded by Johnson and Graham. Historians have placed the Youth for Christ alongside other fundamentalist organizations like the National Association of Evangelicals. In his book, Revive Us Again, The Reawakening of American Fundamentalism, Joel Carpenter outlines several other institutions that were critical to the rise of fundamentalism, but he puts a special emphasis on the Youth for Christ and the National Association of Evangelicals, both of which were established early in the 1940s. The National Association of Evangelicals focused on adults and came to bring the fundamentalist theology of American Protestantism's ideas to try and win America for the church. Following an increased denominational separatism after the war, largely due to the modernist philosophies and thought and trajectory that a lot of denominations were headed down. While the National Association of Evangelicals would grow to become a unifying group in conservative and fundamentalist denominations, it did provide a coalition under that organization's banner, especially under President Harold Okenga, and it was able to achieve, in his words, nothing less than another great awakening in mid-century America. However, the Youth for Christ organization highlighted the role that young Christians played in that rising popularity of fundamentalism, both in the theological and political spectrums. These two institutions were by no means the only fundamentalist organizations to work towards uniting Christians under the fundamentalist umbrella, but they were the largest and most dominant institutions that had an outreach drawing support from across the nation.